Merv, how is it to keep it quiet? How did you do that? I would have been telling everyone.
Oh, exactly. I wanted to tell everyone. So yeah, it was pretty tough to be honest. It was a huge thrill, and when you get news like that, yeah, you just want to tell everyone. But I told my family, obviously, and I've been sort of getting whacked by a few mates that I didn't sort of tell them. I said, well, mate, if I'd have told you, you would have told everyone.
Yeah.
So I've got to keep it quiet. You just do what you're told to do, don't you?
Exactly. So, Merv, one of the great memories I have as a kid watching cricket is the way you played the game. I mean, you were so passionate. You always put in not just 100%, but 1,000%. But also, you wanted to entertain the fans. I mean, where did that sort of side of your play come from?
Oh, I think just growing up, so I was always brought up to show my emotions, and Dad was a sportsman around the place, and probably could have done a little bit more with his sport, but he was a school teacher, so moved around the country areas and played a lot of country sport. And he always instilled in me that if you're going to play, you play to win, and if you don't win, there's no shame in losing, but don't ever give up. So you put all those things together, and the enjoyment I had playing for the Australian side, for the Victorian side, for Footscray, for Werribee before I went down to Footscray. I just love the game. So yeah, show people that you're enjoying yourself, and it just. I think one of the big things I learned as a young bloke when I first went down to Footscray was work hard in the easy times, and it becomes easy in the hard times. So I used to work really hard at training, and in the game situation, never really seemed that hard, to be honest.
I think it actually is a little bit undervalued how hard your era worked, especially under, Alan Border and Bob Simpson. I mean, you trained exceptionally hard and you partied hard.
Yeah, without doubt. Now, I suppose it's a lot different now because we had time. So we had a starting point and a finishing point for the cricket season, and the starting point was start of October, finishing was end of March, and then you'd have 3 months off. So you'd have a physical and mental break, and then just jump back into the next season. And probably as I got into my career, that time frame lessened. So I do feel for the players playing today when they've got to be up and about for 12 months of the year. So they come off one tour, they go straight to another tour. Like they finished the Indian tour here, and they were supposed to go to South Africa. And that being cancelled in itself may be a blessing in disguise for the Australian boys, because they have had a pretty tough run for the last probably 2 years, to be honest.
Merv, you were just talking then about how tough it is to get up repeatedly for tours for the players today. Do you also think it's maybe harder to be a player today because you're always on to the media as well? Like you're always an ambassador for the game?
Oh, that in itself is tough work. That's more the mental side of it than the physical side of it, and it does take its toll. And it's not so much for the media; it's for the social media now. Is that everyone has high expectations, and everyone's got a phone. So everyone's a journalist. If you do something wrong, if you're seen in a bad light at any stage, it just throws it throws a black mark or a blanket over the game, the entire game. So I really feel sorry for the players today in that they virtually have no life of their own. Is that they're always in the public eye. And now, when I played, happy days, scrutinise what I do on the ground, but towards the end of it, it just got into your private and personal life, and I didn't really cope too well with that, to be honest. But these days, it just seems to be the norm in all sports. Everyone wants to know what Steve Smith is doing, what he does in his social time, who he goes out with and all that. He's a cricketer. Let's just judge him on the fact that he's a damn good cricketer. He's worked really hard. He's been the backbone of the Australian side, and let's love him for that. Let's not delve into his private life.
Yeah.
I mean, you would have been, really loved on social media had it been around because, there weren't many players in your era that had such a strong connection with the fans. But, I mean, you really built up such a connection with the fans right around the country.
When you field on the fence, you can have a real connection with the crowd. There's no doubt about that. So in front of base 13 at the MCG was special, but down at fine legal third man at Sydney, the old Sydney Oval in front of the hill, the support you got down there. Always enjoyed myself in Perth. And the South Australian fans were great. You go up to Queensland, it didn't matter where we went, because we're members of the Australian cricket team. The guys loved us. But I'll tell you what, if I went to the Wacker playing for Victoria, or I played at the Gabba playing for Victoria, their mood changed just a little bit.
I think that hasn't changed. How did you go with Captain Grumpy Alan Border? What was your relationship like?
Oh, mate, Alan Border was fantastic. And only the people that didn't know him referred to him as Captain Grumpy. He didn't really get on well with the media. And to be fair, the media, when he first took over the captaincy, really got stuck into him. And I can remember having a talk to him. I reckon it would have been the 89-90 season or the 90-91 season in Adelaide. We spent a few nights between tests. I think we had something in WA, and a few boys here flew home, and we flew to Adelaide. And I remember sitting down having a beer with him, saying, "Why don't you give the media anything?" He said, "Mate, don't have to go to me anything." And probably towards the end, it cost him a bit. If he had been a little bit more media friendly, he may have played a little bit longer because they would have looked after him. But, mate, to a man, everyone that played under him loved him because he defended us. So he got dubbed Captain Grumpy because someone would be criticising a player within the team, and Alan Border would stick up for that player. And very much a player's man, not a media man. And as I said, every player that played under him, to a man, loved AB.
Amazing. Now, one thing that was noted when the press release for your induction is that you were part of the sort of shift in Australian cricket and the resurgence. There was a sort of story floating around from the 88-89 season where the late manager Ian McDonald and a few of you all sort of got together and thought, we've just got to stop letting the West Indies walk all over us. I mean, do you remember that season?
It probably happened the season before, to be honest, in Melbourne. Alan Border took a tough line. We'd just been beaten by England at the MCG. And I think it was inside 3 days.
Oh, wow.
So we just got absolutely pounded. And AB just threw a line in the sand there and just said, right, I'm sick of being seen as a nice guy and losing. I'd rather be seen as a prick and win some games. I just think he dragged everyone with him, and certainly against the West Indies the next year, and particularly after Jeff Lawson got hit by Curtly Ambrose, the attitude of the players in the team just changed dramatically. And we took a leaf out of the, when I say we, Alan Border as captain took a leaf out of the West Indies book, is that you go very hard at the opposition captain and you go hard at the tail. Because ultimately, if the bottom four get 50, 60 runs between them, that could be the difference in the game. And that's what was happening for a little while. So we just became quite ruthless. And Alan Border led the way, set the rules in place. 89, it was no wives in the hotel on tour. So all the married blokes picked up, all the single blokes were pretty happy with it, to be honest. But like AB said, when you've got the families there, it splits the team. And also for a player with young kids, you're in a hotel room. So if one of the kids has a bad night, you don't get any sleep. And that's what he referred to when he was being asked about it. He said, name another professional that takes his wife on a business trip. And this is we're away to play cricket. We're not away for a holiday. And he just felt that previous trips have been a little bit of a holiday more than the boys tuned in to play cricket. So he made some tough decisions along the way. He upset a few people along the way, but by and large, the players that played under him understood what he was doing and just supported him 100%.
Well, it worked out. I'll never forget that ticker tape parade through Sydney when you came back with the Ashes in 89. Must have been a thrill for you guys.
Oh, mate, that's what we said. You're sitting in the car and you're going down the street. We're all sort of sitting there thinking, this is going to be embarrassing. There's going to be 3 people and a dog sitting there just, oh, yeah, well done, boys. And we came around the corner onto that main street, and it was just absolutely phenomenal. I didn't know that many people lived in Australia, let alone Sydney, and to have a look at the crowd, have a look at the sport, and also what overwhelmed me is what cricket meant to a lot of people in Australia. So by winning the Ashes and getting that crowd support away from the game, it was just the whole team were just blown away. So we got to the end of the parade. We got on a boat. We had a cruise around Sydney Harbour that afternoon. So virtually out of the cars, onto the boat, out onto Sydney Harbour. And I don't reckon any player said a word for about an hour and a half. We just sat there, just looking at each other. Like, can you believe that? it was unbelievable. So, and that was just Sydney. I reckon if we had to go to a parade in each capital city, it would have been pretty much the same. But that was something special, something I'll never forget.
Hey, Merv, I'm curious, how much cricket do you consume now, particularly the newer forms of the game like the T20 and the Big Bash? Do you sort of sit down and watch everything you can? Because I notice when I talk to a lot of cricketers, and actually a lot of sports people in general, they don't actually consume a lot of the sport that they play. Like I know Steve Smith doesn't like watching cricket and a few rugby league players don't like watching rugby league. Do you sit down still and watch it?
I watch the Australian side play, Test cricket particularly. One-day cricket, a little bit interested in. At international level with 2020 cricket, probably when the World Cup comes around, it'll be particularly interesting. But I just like the one-day cricket leading into the World Cup. And now we've got the 2020 World Cup coming in. So it's just interesting to see what Australia does with the side. And the Shield cricket, I follow the Shield cricket. When I was selecting, obviously, I followed a lot closer. But I wouldn't say I've got my finger on the pulse, but I wouldn't say that I don't follow it. And because it's not on TV, it's hard. Yeah. It's the Big Bash games. I love watching that, and not so much for the result of the games, but having said that, I am a Renegade supporter. But it's more for identification of cricketers. So a couple of years ago, we see this Jai Richardson coming through, and you think, have a look at him, he's something special. Yeah. And Cameron Green's come through, and you look at him and you think, gee, he's something special. So to have it on free to air, to be able to watch domestic cricket on free to air, albeit 2020, I do watch a lot of it, but as I said, not for the results, just for the players playing. So, to see Aaron Finch players trade at the Renegades and Usman Khawaja at Thunder, and to watch Chris Lynn go out and bat for Brisbane. Things like that. I suppose I watch players within the teams rather than the actual teams.
Right.
I did notice that you jumped on the Shield coverage and the Test coverage over the summer. It was great to hear you commentating again.
It was great to be involved with the hub they had in Adelaide. So we're in a studio in Melbourne and just commentating on that. And I just loved it. People say, don't you get bored watching Shield cricket? Never get bored watching Shield cricket. Purest form of the game. And what people don't understand about a 4-day first-class game, so Sheffield Shield cricket or a test match, is that you mightn't be good enough to win, but you can be good enough to stop the other team from winning. And if you do that, you do get some credit. So what we've seen with India during the Test series here is in Sydney. I think everyone expected bowlers for us to bowl them out in the last day. And the fight that they showed in Sydney was superb. And then set up that game in Brisbane and not only bat through the day but get the run. So you just grow from that. So to be part of the commentary team for ABC Radio for the Melbourne Test match, it was great because I normally go to maybe one or two days of the game and then come home and watch it on TV. But to be in there each day and following it closely, mate, it was just a real thrill. I've just got huge admiration for the current players. To watch the bowlers go about their work, it's fantastic. And when you think you got that Joey Richardson in the wings and Pattinson and Nessa and these guys, the boys at the top level know that they've got to perform. And always great watching Steve Smith bat. He's got some nervous energy, and I just love the way he goes about it. And Yeah, to be honest, I'm a real Davey Warner fan. I'd like to see him get back on the board and do well going forward. So hopefully if this tour to South Africa gets up, he can find his form and do really well and help lead this range to a win.
Yeah, let's hope so. Now, last couple before I let you go. Now, looking back at your career, is there any sort of bowling spell or bowling day that stands out for you just when you were really at the peak of your bowling powers?
Oh, probably a tough one. You don't really think about it. I suppose the better you're bowling, the less you're thinking about it, to be honest. If you're playing against the West Indies and you're thinking about where to bowl, it means that you're getting hit a bit. But I suppose there's a couple of spells that come to mind. And a spell where really I only took the one wicket, but in the Lord's Test of '89, Smith and Gower in the second innings were getting on top. And bowled a spell to David Gower and ended up getting him out. He got 123. We won the game, but just little things like that you know that you work hard for a wicket and you got the reward. That's very satisfying. I probably tend to look at spells from other bowlers. And mate, the one I go back to is that spell of Shane Warne in the second innings of the Boxing Day Test match against the West Indies, 92-93. We got 7 wickets in that, and West Indies, I reckon, went from about 1 for 180 to all out about 250, chasing 330. So, you know, things like that. You probably don't dwell on your own performance. I like to reminisce of the other guys' spells, and Shane Warne had that many of them. You could name any one of them. Paul Rifle, a couple of times in 93. Brendan Julian, the same in 93. And the opening bowlers I bowled with Craig McDermott, Mike Whitney, Bruce Reid. Remember a spell by Bruce Reid against England at the MCG, another Boxing Day Test match. He bowled like the big, mate. It was awesome. Ran in, bowled like the wind, and probably deserved to take all 10 wickets.
Yeah, I remember, speaking of that Warne performance, he bowled a flipper to Richie Richardson that just completely bamboozled him.
Yeah, no, mate, they show the highlights, and the 2 balls that come to mind of Shane Warne was that flipper, and also that first ball to Mike Gadding, his first ball on English soil. So when I think of Shane Warne, I think of that. And the third ball would be his hat-trick ball where David Boone took that magnificent catch. Also at the MCG, it's funny that a lot of things seem to happen at the G.
That was an amazing day. Now, I remember a famous partnership you and Dean Jones put on 114, the Adelaide Oval in 88, 89, and you made 72. And I remember in the paper the next day, they had a picture showing all the bruises on your body, and you'd been hit from head to toe, and they had them all highlighted out. Is that one of sort of the batting highlights of your career?
Yeah, probably not so much for the 72. The fact that I got to the wicket when Dino was about 70, so 30 runs to 170, sorry, so 30 runs short of a double 100. And Bob Simpson was always adamant that if we batted with the batsman, don't get out playing a stupid shot, let the batsman score the runs, you hang around. But if you're batting with someone below you, play a few shots because you're not out there for long. And I'll probably get more satisfaction with the knowledge that I went in batting number 10 and got Dino across the line to his 200. And used his night watchman a few times, but probably just prided myself on 50 partnerships with batsmen. And I night watchman a couple of times and batted with Mark Taylor. And there was a big partnership with Steve Waugh in the Ashes in England, 89, the first series where he did 177. So they're probably the things that I look back at and more satisfied. And again, it's not a personal achievement. It's just having, I suppose, the ability, for want of a better word, to stand at the other end and watch these blokes bat. And you just think as a bowler, I'd hate to be bowling to these guys today.
Yeah, no, I remember you just never gave your wicket away. It was inspiring stuff. Well, Merv, it's been such a thrill to have you on the podcast. Congratulations on the Hall of Fame induction. It's so fantastic, and thank you for spending some time with us today.
Thank you, Merv.
No worries, Joel. Thanks for having us on. Lisa, sorry to cut you off, darling. So thanks for having us on. And yeah, as I said, just absolutely blown away by the Hall of Fame. Just absolutely stoked. And to be in with that calibre of group, it's very humbling.
Well, you brought a lot of joy to fans all around the country, and you continue to do so. So take care, and hopefully we'll catch up soon.